listen to books that I'm currently reading and books that I want to read afterwards. So let's begin. And first off, I want to talk about a book that I have listened to recently. I always listen to audiobooks on script. I see it all the time. I still have the link for a 2-month free trial in the description, by the way. And this book, okay, that I want to talk about is called Lemon by Kwon Yo-son. It's a translation from Korean, and it's a multiple POV kind of book. By the way, if you will be listening to it, there is a voice that is a man in like few chapters, like one of the POVs, but actually the character is a woman, and I've only realized that because one of the characters called this character Onni, which is a term for older sister if the person who calls the other person is a woman, or it can be also used between friends when one is older. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm stupid. But if you're reading the book, I've heard that there is no way you can tell a difference between the two POVs. Like, there is not a name at the beginning of the chapters, so you're always a bit confused, like who is talking. So I prefer the audiobook for that reason, even though one of the characters is voiced by a male. But and I'm not even like going into the plot and the details, but I just wanted to explain that, so in case you would pick it up, in case you listen to it, you wouldn't be confused. There are also some intermissions by different characters, but you can recognize those like pretty quickly, like you will know who is talking. So I'll read the description. It's really long, so I will not read it. I will not read everything, but it says, "This is not a murder story. It is the story of those left behind. Parasite meets the good son in this piercing psychological portrait of 3 women haunted by a brutal, unsolved crime. In the summer of 2002, 19-year-old Kim Hae-on was murdered in what became known as the high school beauty murder. There were 2 suspects, Shin Jong-jun, who had a rock-solid alibi, and Han Man-woo, to whom no evidence could be pinned. The there's not really a clear ending. I like those kind of endings. If you do not like those kind of endings, it might not be for you. But like I said, you will figure it out. It's pretty obvious who was the perpetrator. Although, again, I have read in some reviews, like opinions that it was somebody else. I don't know. I feel like you can figure it out pretty easily if you pay attention to the details, especially to the intermissions. It's an interesting book. I really like books that make you think, and sometimes I find it a bit, I don't want to say offensive, but I don't have any other term for it, where like mysteries kind of serve every fact on a plate to the reader. I don't need that. Like, give me clues and I'll probably figure it out by myself. And sometimes, I don't know, I've read some mysteries where the ending like didn't make any sense, even though everything was described in detail. So I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I liked it. So one of the characters is a sister of the victim, and the other one is just, it might seem like a random person in school. It was an older girl that went to the same school with them. But it's just really interesting. I highly recommend this book, especially if you're interested in Korean literature. Highly recommend. But again, like it's not a murder mystery. Like, it doesn't focus on that. So don't go into the book thinking that that's what you will get. You know. While we're talking about audiobooks, the next book that I will listen to is called Happy Hour by Merlo Granados, and I became interested in this book like last year when I was doing a reading challenge, where you needed to read a book with a tea on the cover, like it was something like that, or a beverage on the cover. And this book, one of the versions of the book, has like, I don't know, some kind of alcohol in it. So I will read again the brief description with the verve and bite of my year of rest and relaxation, which by the way is another book that I'm interested in. I've heard tons of things about it. And the wisecracking sensibility of a golden age Hollywood heroine, Merlo Granados' stunning debut brilliantly captures a summer of striving in New York City. Refreshing and wry in equal measure, Happy Hour is an intoxicating novel of youth well spent. Isa Epley, I'm not sure how you say the name, is 21 years old and wise enough to understand that the purpose of life is the pursuit of pleasure. In her diary, she chronicles her New York City adventure during the sweltering summer of 2013. By day, Isa and her best friend Gala sell clothes in a market stall, pinching pennies for their Bed-Stuy sublet and bodega lunches. By night, they weave from Brooklyn to the Upper East Side among a rotating cast of celebrities, artists, and bad-mannered grifters. Money runs ever tighter, and the strain tests their friendship as they try to convert their social capital into something more lasting. Okay, so this kind of seems like Gossip Girl a little bit. I don't know. Like, I have not started this audiobook yet. It's also on script, of course, like I told you. I'm interested in it. Like, let's see. I'm kind of interested in like social friendship fiction. I don't know what that will tell you. There's a review that says, whatever happens in this book, take it at face value. So let's see. It sounds interesting. And the next book that I will read is Psyche and Eros, a novel by Luna McNamara. And this is a Greek mythology book. It seems like it's a retelling, a fantasy retelling. I'm interested in Greek mythology. I talked about this many times. I even did a full podcast on Greek mythology on my Patreon. Even on Roman mythology too, which I think is now finished. So I've finished both Greek and Roman mythology already. Now we're heading into Norse mythology again. Anyways, that was just random info. There's some people kind of being real loud outside. I don't know if you can hear them. What's funny is that they must be somewhere over there, they're quite far away, but you can still hear them. Anyways, let's move on from audiobooks because I want to talk about something else. So this is a book that I have read recently, and I filmed a whole vlog about it on my other channel. I don't know if the video will be out by the time this video will be out. Probably. I'll try to edit it. And it is The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey, and it's adult sci-fi. I thought it's YA sci-fi because most characters are YA, they're young adult. I still think it should be classified as YA. I don't know if it's not. I'm kind of confused. So this is a book about alien invasion. But the aliens are not your typical green little man like we usually see. They're quite different. They're these... I don't want to spoil it, but I feel if I would talk about what they are, it would be a spoiler. They're just these scary beings, let's say. And there were 4 waves already of destruction and killings. So right now, when the book starts, not a lot of people are alive from the original 7-8 billion. And then this book talks about survivors, specifically about 2 young kids that are in high school age. And the girl character, I'm sorry, she was so annoying. I couldn't stand her. Unfortunately, this book was published in 2013, and I feel at that time every character that was a girl had to be super annoying. And the other character is a boy, and they kind of know each other in the beginning, but then they separate. And it's multiple POVs. I think. Wait, is it written in? I think it's written in first person. Both of the POVs are written in first person. What can I tell you about this? I did like this book, but I gave it 3 stars. That's because some of the things, it was just too much sometimes. There were just too many things that didn't make sense. Maybe they will make sense in the future books. I mean, I'm in the middle of 2nd book. I'm continuing the series. But sometimes I was confused, and I was reading this in my mother tongue. So I don't know what was going very well paced. And just the changes they made in the movie, they made sense. They made more sense to the story than how it was originally written. And that is coming from a person who like always prefers the book to the movie. They just like, it was more logical, okay? And some of the scenes were also more logical. I don't know. But I still liked it, okay? I've enjoyed it. So that was the fifth wave by Rick Yancey. Right now I'm currently reading The Infinite Sea. I think that's what it's called in English. And it's a continuation of the first book. Now this book is pretty much an action book. You don't get that many background information like in the first book. So it's just like one action scene happening after another. Like it's really fast paced. And again, like sometimes the scenes are just like so dramatic. They're written like Hollywood action scenes, but sometimes those can be like a bit too much, if you know what I mean. But I still enjoy it. Like it's good to read before bed, for example, because the action scenes, like there's so many that like it makes me tired. I fall asleep quickly. But I do recommend the book. Okay, like honestly, if you're looking for a sci-fi action book, why not? I also have the third book, which I'll read after I will finish the second book. The second book is much shorter compared to the first one. Again, I don't know if this book series had to be 3 books. I remember at the time every single book had to be, like every single book series had to be 3 books, even though it made 0 sense, and sometimes the second book was just like a filler book. I kind of feel it with this book too. And then I think Ali Bardugo came out with Crooked Kingdom duology. No, Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and that kind of changed the book scene a little bit. So more books became a duology, and I actually prefer it that way sometimes. Like it makes more sense. So the last book I think is called The Last Star, and I just want to finish the series. I still am interested in how it will turn out. Okay, so I want to know the ending. So that's The Infinite Sea by Rick Yancey. And another book that I'm reading, and I talked about this many times already, so I will not talk about it now, but it's Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I am still reading the book. I'm currently on page like 130, so I haven't progressed that much. It's because I have to be in like a specific mindset. Like for me, this book is super relaxing, even though it's high fantasy with multiple POVs. There's like tons of going on, but the scenes are written in such a way that I can like relax. Like it's my comfort book, basically, like my comfort world. Like I know how it works, but there's still new info in each book, and I love the series so much. I mean, I mentioned it like a bajillion times on my channel already, so if you are a long time viewer, you know what I'm talking about, okay? The first book, in case you don't know, starts off with a character that used to be a soldier and now is a slave. Well, actually, oh gosh, it's hard to explain, okay? But in this world, there was a murder of a king, and nobody really knows Song of Ice and Fire, but without the extreme violence and explicit scenes. Like if you are a fan of that kind of book, like really complicated world, complicated magic system, this book is for you, 100%. Especially if you're not really a fan of like the extreme violence and explicit scenes. Although there are battle scenes here too, and death. Just so you would know. Okay, so after I will finish this book, I will of course progress to the next one. I just wanted to mention that. Anyways, that will be it for today's video. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I am planning on kind of like turning this into a series. So the books that I've mentioned that I will be reading in the next video, I will have read them already, and I'm going to talk about it. So yeah, it'll be like a cute little continuation. But it's okay if you are like a first time viewer, that's fine. But perhaps like if you're interested, maybe you can read these books too, and we can talk about them in my next video. I don't know, do whatever you want. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.